Hey everyone, welcome to the big announcement for 2020. I'm your host, Jeff Hallish, for those that don't know me. But if you don't, I maybe you've been hiding under a rock for the last, I don't know, 5.5 years. But I think most everybody knows me. And I am with Paco LeBron from Prodigy Techs, my very, very good friend. And he won't slap me when I say that. How you doing, Paco?
No, I won't slap you for saying that. Absolutely. I'm doing well.
Good. Good to have you. Okay, so we have a couple of big reveals. I think we've got some people that are in the um, chat room and kind of hanging out. Oh, and it looks like 22 people are watching. Wow, that's like the most we've ever had.
Nice.
Um, that's awesome. So I want to start off by saying Happy New Year. Welcome to 2020. It was an exciting 2019. I personally am glad that I took the last 3 months off and kind of gave a little hiatus to the podcast. So I'm glad about that. Paco, do you have anything to say about last year, this year, before we get into the details of what we're going to talk about tonight?
Other than it was an interesting ride, things were very well for us as a business and can't wait to kick off the new year moving forward.
Awesome, man. All right. So one of the things we want to talk about is we're rebranding the podcast. Now you're not going to see anything. You'll see some changes here. We wanted to announce it first. We'll make some changes in our banners and things like that on the Facebook group, in on the YouTube channel, et cetera, et cetera. So, Paco, do you want to give the name of the brand new show? It's a yes or no question.
I was waiting for it to like up to you. Yes. So we've been thinking about this pretty hard on what we wanted to rebrand the show to. So as you know, that we were previously the Computer Repair Podcast. And we felt that we wanted to rebrand the show to something that really encompassed everything that kind of what we did previously with our previous convention, TechCon Unplugged. We're trying to tighten things down, kind of keep with the brand. So what we've decided to do is call it the Jeff and Paco Show. No, I'm kidding.
That would be awesome, though.
The name of the show is actually going to be, and some of you will be a little bit confused by it, but we'll explain why we're calling it. But the name of the new show is going to be called MSP Unplugged.
And I know some people are throwing up in their mouths as I did. But the reason we came up with this is, number one, if you look on the internet, MSP is actually a term that we actually use in our industry. And it's kind of one of those terms that it's kind of like podcasting. There were podcasters out there that wanted to change the word podcast because they didn't want it to attach to Apple's stuff and they wanted to create their own thing. So some people have named things like Netcast and stuff like that, and it never stuck. And so this is what I call the McDonald's phenomena. Basically, McDonald's, everybody knows what a McDonald's is. They know you don't even have to use the word McDonald's. If you see the golden arches, you know that's a McDonald's. And they were kind of first to the scene. And because they were first to the scene, they are still one of the largest fast food companies out there, even though many would argue that their food is not that good anymore. But it doesn't matter. So the brand recognition out there is there. So that's one reason. Number two was the domain name was actually available. So we were able to get MSP Unplugged. I know it's a little thing, but I'm a big .com person. I like .com, so I try to stick with that. So the website, which will be coming forth here shortly, will be mspunplugged.com. Number three, it's easy to spell. And quite honestly, if you can't spell MSP Unplugged, I don't know what you're doing here. Just kidding. All right. If you can't spell it, it's okay. We'll help you. But it kind of rolls off the tongue. It's easy to say. And it's a play on words on what we've said from the beginning when I started this show or restarted this show years ago. And that is, at the end of the day, we fix computers. And so one of the things, and when we talked about being unplugged, we do things a little bit differently, and we talk about things a little bit differently than a lot of the people in the industry. And the reason we do that is because we feel it's important to I don't know. I don't want to say tell the truth, but we feel it's important to let people know there's two sides to every story. And there's many different ways that you can run your business. And many people are doing it differently and are very successful. So there's nothing wrong with that.
Right. I think the biggest piece of it is as we were trying to come up with a new name and why Jeff allowed MSP to be on the show title is more about we can't get away from that frame, that brand. There are managed service providers, there are MSP. It's one of the most looked for terms in our industry when they decide to do more of managed services, recurring revenue, breaking out of break fix, which is what these industry terms have decided to label these things. So we decided to call it MSP Unplugged for that reason. One, to basically show that it's going to be a transparent look on how to become an IT business. And two, specifically, it's more on being able to explain that things can be done differently if equipped with the right tools, with the right processes. And MSPs, managed services, IT businesses that are a solopreneur or one person shop, all the way down to someone that has an employee or two employees, can have a significant impact in your own growth and your revenue, and being able to just be accepted to a community that can help you better your day-to-day livelihood, because that's really what this is for everyone, or those that are trying to jump into it if they're part-time, hoping to do full-time and leave the day-to-day grind that they probably just aren't really liking or can't stand.
Let's be honest, we've talked about different ways of doing the business. And for me, running my business part-time outside of my regular job, doing the other things that I'm doing, I am mostly a break fix shop. And guess what? I'm okay with that, because actually the revenue turnaround for me, and I don't have to have that recurring revenue all the time because I have a regular job. So for me, it's a little bit different. Now, for everybody else who's trying to get that recurring revenue and have that money constantly coming in, that's fine. And that definitely is a way to do business, and it's a smart way to do business.
Yep.
I guess the thing that always ticked me off about MSP, or managed service providers, is that people try to portray themselves as something that they weren't necessarily. And so they kind of weren't telling the whole truth out there. And that's kind of why we kind of dog them a little bit.
Yep. Either they omitted or they kind of changed the story on what that, but exactly like what Jeff said, for those that are joining us or haven't heard, both of our stories, as Jeff said, he's a break fix shop, has a full-time job. I was in the same position. I was part-time. I was a part-time IT business owner, had a full-time job. I ended up transitioning off once the full-time job eliminated the department to being full-time. I struggled for about a year and a half as a full-time IT business owner. It was until the last half of my second year full-time. But coming February, it's 7 years altogether. And then it had been that later half to this full year in 2019 that has been the best of my business thus far. And now being a full-time managed service provider, I'm doing exactly that, trying to find the most efficient tools. How do I standardize my processes, linking with specific managed service providers, IT businesses in my area, and how can we leverage all of us together and really making a full cohesive unit versus feeling that I'm the only one doing this. And that's kind of the purpose of what we're trying to do, is lift that veil to everyone, that they can be able to do this if they do put in the work and really have the desire to see it through.
And you can carve out whatever you want in your business to make it work for you. And that's really what we're all about here. We're not about doing a cookie cutter approach into doing business a certain way. There are certain business practices that just make common sense, and those are things that people should be doing anyways. But we try to bring those things out and help the whole group as a whole. One of the questions that I see in a chat room, Computer Pro asks, do you have a logo already? Yes. And you will start to see that logo start to pop up on the YouTube channel, etc. Now, Paco, we have obviously we have a secret Facebook group where we have Patreon subscribers. And you know what's funny? For the last 3 months, we haven't podcasted, yet we've had several people sign up to be Patreon subscribers, which I really appreciate. So this is going to go into section number 2 of basically what we had talked about doing for the secret Facebook group. And Paco, do you want me to kind of go into it, or do you want to kind of give it an overview of what we talked about before? Do you remember what we talked about?
I was gonna say I have no clue what you're talking about, Jeff. Go ahead.
Typical.
Yeah.
So anyways, so one of the things that actually Paco and I did talk about it, and one of the things we came up with is we were trying to incorporate MSP Unplugged with TechCon Unplugged, which is our conference for IT business owners, which we threw with a great success. And that was coming from not our words, but that was coming from our audience that showed up to that event, and it had a lot of good feedback, positive, very little negative. It was mostly constructive criticism, which I enjoy. I have no problems with constructive criticism. People were like, well, we could do this, and I wouldn't mind if that wasn't there or whatever. And we said, okay, cool. So we've got some things we can work on and make better. But as we're pulling these things together, we really want to have a place for the community as a whole. In other words, people who listen to this podcast on a regular basis, but also people that are going to our yearly conference. And so Paco and I talked about it. And one of the things that Paco said to me is, I don't want to maintain two groups. I 100% agree with him. So with that, what we're going to do is we're going to open up the group a little bit. And let me preface this by saying, and this may sound a little money hungry or whatever, but let's face it, time and energy to put this thing together. It takes time and energy. So, and I'm a firm believer that people should get paid for what they do. Now, we're not going to make $1 bazillion here. That's not our goal. Our goal is to provide good information to help people out. I know. Go ahead. I know. We've had people write us pretty big checks, but we declined those. Several times. Inside joke. Maybe we'll tell that story one day. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, it was.
So with that being said, what we want to do is and we'll probably do this as on a year-to-year basis. Number one, we still are thankful, and we're going to try to maybe do something a little bit more for the Patreon subscribers, because we want to do a little added to and make it worth your while. But for the Patreon subscribers that are out there now, we definitely appreciate your support. Hopefully you'll stay with us. If not, that's okay. Not a big deal. But for the Facebook group itself, we want to pull the whole community together so we can all work off of each other and have one cohesive unit that works together on a regular basis. So if you buy a ticket to the conference or hopefully give to the Patreon subscription at $1 a show, you're looking at, $4 a month. Last year we sold tickets for $199. I mean, for the type of education we feel you're getting, I don't feel that it's too much to ask. And with that, what we'll do is we're going to put both people in the same group so we can monitor that group, and we can all work together instead of trying to have several different groups out there. That just makes a big headache. You remember what we talked about now?
Yep, I remember.
Just a couple days ago. No, I don't. I can't remember when it was.
Yeah, I mean, we were just basically talking about we want to make sure that we give the right to all the active Patreon subscribers and those that have purchased tickets that have come into the podcast as well. So essentially, we'll be making sure that all the members are active Patreon users who are currently still subscribing. If anyone has lapsed, I do suggest you go into your Patreon account and update that. So we'll be updating all the registered users. So whoever's a continued Patreon supporter will stay in the group. And then those who purchased a ticket in TechCon, we'll be adding them in there until we put in some other fun stuff for the Patreon supporters.
And here's one of the things that came by, and this is a good point. Remus Computer Solutions, a good friend of ours, he basically says, wish it wasn't on Facebook, Discord, please. And I feel your pain. Again, it was one of those things. I had made a Discord server, and it just got not a whole lot of traction because a lot of people really they're not there. That's not what they use. And unfortunately, this is the world we live in. Again, Facebook is there. That's where everybody is for families and stuff like that. And I understand that some people might not want to be a part of the Facebook group. I get that. One of the things I've done personally is I actually don't have Facebook on my phone. so I'm not tethered to it all the time. I will check Facebook when I get on my computer or laptop and go from there. And so I'm not sitting there constantly pulled in because I I'm guilty. I get sucked in on it. And the next thing I know, I've just wasted a bunch of time that I really didn't need to waste. But at the same time, there are things I see on there for myself, my grandchildren, and stuff like that. So um, that's just where I'm at. I don't want to log into, 10 different things. We've tried as a group, Paco, John, and several others of us have tried Slack and all these different, and they're okay, but they're not what a community type group needs, I guess is the best way I could put it.
Yeah, we have a couple ideas. We think we may have something, but we'll keep you all in tune for that.
Well, go ahead. Because you brought this up the other day, give a little sneak peek behind what you're thinking and what I agreed with.
Well, I don't want to make promises that I can't keep, Jeff.
Well, we're not going to make any promises, but so moving forward, and this is why sometimes money is important because we can do different things with money. And here's one of the things that Paco brought to my attention, and I agree with him on this.
So essentially what I would love to see is we basically in the future retire all the groups and all that sort of stuff. And we have a members only area similar to what we had on the previous site that we were on, where we had the live chat, we had kind of all that sort of stuff. But basically what we're going to do is do a membership area, membership only type website, which is the MSPUnplugged.com site that's going to be happening. So we will have something similar to that where basically it'll be one source where everyone can get like if any discounts that we get from vendors, TechCon audio and video, things like that. So that's what we're working on. At least that's my hope is we develop a prototype or a framework that we can get that going. So Matt, who everyone knows, Matt Rodella over at Tech Site Builder is developing the site. So this is the first that he's hearing about it. So yeah, get on it, buddy. But no, yeah, that's the hope that we can get to. So we're still, ironing all that out.
Yeah, and this is going to be a constant moving forward process. We want to. One of the things a lot of people may or may not know this about me, I'm either an on or off person. In other words, I'm 100% into something. Yeah, or I'm like, I don't want to have nothing to do with it. That's just the way I am. So we're constantly moving forward and trying to make things better. We're constantly thinking of things to make it where it's going to be easier to use for everybody. And I love his idea of a membership site because for the people that are going to the conferences and who are a part of this group here, listening to the podcast, Patreon supporters, this will give you one place where everybody can kind of plug in. And then that kind of makes more sense than using just a different platform at this point. So for right now, moving forward, we'll stick with Facebook and hopefully we can build something where we can put some other things together and have it where, it's separated from everything else. So number 3, and most of the stuff I have no notes. I'm making the stuff up as I go, as Paco knows. It's what I do best. And so the audio for the conference, and I just want to bring this up because I haven't forgotten about it. I will put that audio together and in some sort of format, and we will make it available somehow via a link through Google Drive or something like that here in the near future. So for all the people that attended the conference, you definitely will be getting some things, some newsletters with that information so that you can get that information from us. Also, it will have a link to basically become part of the Facebook group. And so we'll kind of go from there on that.
Yep.
Let's see. All right. What else we got?
I mean, we got to talk about TechCon Unplugged.
TechCon Unplugged?
Yep.
Is that happening again?
I don't know. Apparently, a room full of IT business owners when we were in Grand Rapids, Michigan, said that they wanted to see it again. So, and we both looked at each other like, "Oh, shucks."
Yeah, that's what I said. Oh, shoot.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I am happy. We've been knowing this for a while. We've been reaching out to a lot of sponsors and vendors. So you may have heard some trickles everywhere else. But in a email that we sent out early think it was like or late September after the conference was done with incorrect dates. Because that was a bad email that I sent out that shouldn't have any dates in whatsoever. But TechCon 2020 will be back officially September 25th to the 27th. We will be back in Grand Rapids, Michigan, over at the Holiday Inn Airport. And we will also have tickets on sale next week with our first official show back next Sunday. So the site will be updated. It'll allow you to purchase tickets. And yeah, basically it will be hopefully for a good old time and get those tickets and flights going soon.
All right, very good. And Matt Ingram says, will we get a membership card? I just wanted to bring that up because I thought that was it's possible.
Yeah, we can
again, not going to promise anything, but it's definitely possible. I don't know why you'd have it. If you have a membership card though from us, it'll probably be me and Paco back to back, with our arms folded or something like that. I don't know, looking like we're selling furniture or something. I don't whatever, used cars maybe. Oh, for those that don't know, a little inside joke on that. We were making the banners for TechCon Unplugged, and when we were making the banners, I had showed my wife, and one of the things I can't remember if Paco, you and I were talking about it, but I think she came up with it. She's like, "Oh, it'd be funny if you and Paco were back to back on the banners." So we were like, "Yeah, no, we're not."
Yeah,
it was funny. It would have been funny, but
right, it would have been funny. Yeah, but it wasn't. Not our style. Not our style.
Well, it is.
I mean,
anyway. All right. So as Paco said, we will be back, and our plan is right now, as of my work schedule is changing a little bit, which will be actually better for me. But the plan is to be every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. And the reason we're doing that is that's a time when Paco can come on, and we think that it's a time that John Dubinsky can also be on the show with us and get away for a little bit on Sunday evenings. Now that could change, but we will definitely keep everybody up to date on whether or not we're going to a daytime. But we think Sunday evenings, kind of when people are winding down, maybe getting ready for the work week. It's kind of a good time to have that out there. So.
Yeah, and we'll kind of leave that to you guys as well, and if it makes sense for our schedule on what kind of fits from there. I will drop this little teaser that we do have 2 vendors so far that will be appearing on the show. The first is going to hopefully be this month. It will be Huntress. Huntress will be joining us to talk about their tools and systems that they have over there. And then in February, we will actually be having Domots. I know Domots has been a kind of one of those services / vendors that kind of just came out of nowhere, at least for me, about 1.5 years ago when I was at Channel Pro, and they got a lot of press for some of their IoT networking and just more getting to understand the networking a little bit better. So they'll be on in February sometime. So we got those 2 lined up to come on MSP Unplugged podcast and just talk a little bit about what they're doing as well.
Very cool. All right. So let's see. We hit the name of the show. We hit obviously when the show is going to be. We hit TechCon Unplugged. Talked about the audio. Are we missing anything?
No, I think everyone just needs to tune in next week, January 12th, for our first official show. We just wanted to make sure that everyone knew kind of what was going on, and a lot more fun surprises, announcements coming forward.
And for right now, for people that do want to reach out, you can reach me at, and we will get a, I'll use a domain name, and we'll get a email address here within the next week or so. But you can always reach me at jeff@technutpc.com. That's my official business address, and we'll get that information there. So, also, I guess one of the other things I want to talk about, one of the things we're talking about doing for the show, and this is where it kind of makes it more interactive for the audience. We really want audience participation. In other words, we want people, you, to come on the show and talk about yourself. Everybody's good at talking about themselves, whether they believe it or not. And so with that being said, what we're trying to do is we want to make it a little bit easier. And one of the things we're talking about is maybe having somewhere on the website using like a Calendly plugin or something along those lines for people that are familiar with that. where you can go in and basically sign up for a slot, and you can kind of see what slots are filled, so that there's less back and forth going, hey, I'm available this day. Oh no, I'm not available that day. Oh, maybe how about this? Oh no. And so maybe we can get some more people involved. And we really do want you involved. You can be up here right next to us talking, and we can be talking about whatever, maybe a subject you want to bring to the show, or something that maybe we're just talking about that week. And that's really what the show is about, really is about the audience participation. That's always been my goal, is to have the audience in the forefront, because quite honestly, I can only listen to myself talk so often. That's not true. Actually, I can listen to myself talk all the time.
Yeah, you can.
But really, we do want everybody involved. And you guys, if you want to start sending information or start sending emails and letting us know maybe when you're available, we can start getting some of that stuff scheduled, along with the vendors and stuff that we have coming on board. That's the other thing too, is we want to bring vendors on board that are basically you're going to learn from. You're going to learn about their product or service. You're going to be able to check it out to see whether it's going to be for you or not.
Yep.
And we'll kind of go from there.
Yep, exactly. So could have said it better than myself.
Let's see. All right. Kyle says, I'm ready to be back on. Awesome. Mike Slotowski signed me up. Yeah.
So once Matt gets MSPUnplugged.com up and running. So guys, we'll have two sites. So we'll have the MSPUnplugged.com website, which will be the podcast and hopefully the memberships portion of it, and all the links and things of that nature. And then we're going to still have our conference website, which is TechConUnplugged.com. But essentially, if you go to MSPUnplugged.com, it should link over to TechCon Unplugged's website. But TechConUnplugged.com, if you want to just enter your email address, if you haven't already, to kind of keep updated with the event. But on the MSP Unplugged website, we will have that Calendly feature, so you can book a show if you want to come on board, and then a topic that you may want to discuss, and we can kind of go from there.
And we know I know we started selling tickets a little bit earlier last year, and we're not in a time crunch or anything like that. But once we start to sell the tickets, we're hoping that everybody that wanted to go, you sign up right away and go ahead and get those tickets, and book your flights and all that kind of stuff ahead of time. Obviously, I know there's certain stipulations with cancellations and stuff like that you have to deal with, but pretty much, if you think about hotel rooms and stuff like that, once we come out with those deals, the hotel rooms usually is 48-hour notice or something like that.
Something like that, yeah. They're pretty good about it.
Yeah. Shouldn't get stuck with too much. But just if you're planning on going to an event this year, and hopefully it will be ours, because we think we had a blast. I did. It was fun. Even though Paco and I were kind of standing back going, what in the world have we gotten ourselves into? But it was pretty cool. We really had a good time with everybody, and we liked talking to people face to face. And I think you get to know people a little bit better at an event versus just hearing us talk on a weekly basis on this show.
Yeah, so I think we talked, the event was great. We did a really great recap over at our old network on PodNuts Network, over at the Computer Repair Podcast. So that episode has a lot of the details and kind of the information that we've talked about, and then kind of where we're at now.
Okay, so a couple questions, and I do want to answer these. Matt Ingram says, are you still a part of PodNuts? And as we explained on the, I think it was show 334, and we might do one more little recap on that, just to let everybody know and be clear. We left the PodNuts network not because of anything bad or anything like in that nature. We just wanted to pull our business ventures into one entity, and basically we're running it under a company name, a company umbrella. If you so we decided to do that just to kind of keep everything in house and do things that would help grow everything together. So that's the only reason that we actually left PodNuts and are going out on our own. And it'll be up to each and every individual here, obviously, to let other people know about that. I'm I'm sure I've got some invites to some podcasts here in the near future, which I will be on. So
Nice.
keep updated for that. And so we'll be getting that word out there. It's going to be a slow roll, but I think with the momentum that we've had over the past 5.5 years, I think it'll be fine. There's a lot of people that subscribe to this YouTube channel, and the only thing we're going to ask people to do is when the show actually comes out in podcast format, subscribe to the show on whatever podcatcher, favorite podcatcher you can, and that obviously helps. We're not going to. I'm not really chasing numbers or anything like that. I'd rather have, if there's 100 people that we could help, I'd rather do that any day of the week than have hundreds of thousands of people that follow us. It's just really, you're only going to be able to help so many people at one time anyway. So this just works out better for this type of format.
Right. Yeah, I think what a lot of people don't know is that, TechCon Unplugged was actually an event that was thrown by Jeff and myself. It wasn't a PodNuts production. It wasn't any other podcast networks production. It was both of ours production to throw, and we invited several members from the community to help join us. So as you saw, Marvin B, Mike Smith, John Dubinsky, we all kind of came together, throw some ideas with the first iteration of the show. And we kind of came together for that way. So and like Jeff said, the reason why we left the PodNuts network is so that we can help with the branding come all together, because it was kind of difficult to say, well, we podcast for that, but it's not really the network's production. And so it kind of got confusing to everyone we were talking to. So this allowed us to, have our own show, have our own conference, have the branding all together as one entity to avoid confusion. And it just worked out streamlined a lot better for us in the back end, and give you kind of the same and hopefully better content moving forward in the front end.
And one of the questions that just came up, Kyle Kenyon asked, will this channel switch the name or new channel? So this will just switch the name. So this is the channel that I own. So the name will just switch, and you will see that. And hopefully a lot of this, I've got a lot of work to do. Let's just be honest. But fortunately I'm off work for the next week. So hopefully I can get a lot of this stuff done along with my taxes and other things that are always looming in the background. But yes, you'll start to see some changes with the entities that we have. And as Paco said, we'll have the website up and running, and we'll get the newsletter and stuff out to people. And also we'll let people know on this channel. Obviously, this is where we start the show. The rest of the podcast comes from this, show. We just put it in audio format and put it up on a feed, which I will do here within the next week. So that'll be pretty exciting to get something, a little bit different going, and we'll see where it takes us.
Yep.
All right, Paco, anything other than that? We spent about 33 minutes japping our jaws. And
nope. I think this was a good, concise episode. Just really wanted to make sure that we updated everyone. We know we owed you several updates. It's been a while since we've chatted and talked. I know a lot of you have reached out to me and Jeff directly. We appreciate that. It does feel good to be back. The time off was very needed. And yeah, stay tuned for next week, and for both the first episode and the ability to subscribe to the newsletter and purchase those tickets.
I'm going to be honest though, Paco, it was nice to be wanted.
Oh, was it?
just being perfectly honest. No, it was cool that people actually reached out and said, "Hey, it's January. You guys are right. Almost January. Are you guys coming back?" I've had other people say, "I really miss your show."
Yeah, a lot of and it was humbling to hear a lot of that. It was really cool to hear that. Messaging you, the guys that messaged you, the guys that messaged me, John, all that sort of stuff. So it was pretty cool.
And I will say this: the same goes as it's always been. If you have any questions or anything like that, please feel free to reach out to any one of us, and within a timely manner, as soon as physically possible, we will always respond with something. And, hopefully we can point you guys in the right direction. But I'm excited to be back. I know I like to do it. I do. And that makes it nice. Even though it's work, it's fun work.
Yep.
All right, Paco, I think with that, I don't really have any ending things. I got to work on all that, my notes, yada yada yada, blah blah blah. The new Patreon supporters, all that kind of stuff.
See you all soon.
We'll line that stuff up for next week. Appreciate you guys hanging out, and we will see you next week, same time, same channel. Have an awesome week.
Have a good one.